Alright, so last time on here, I dropped my list of what I think are the 5 worst moves in the game. So today, we're going to go to the other end of the spectrum for what I think are the 5 best moves in the game. When it comes to the worst moves in the game, I think you can easily, like, transplant them onto any other character, and they would still be bad. So, like, if you gave Akuma Thunderstorm, for example, it would still be a terrible move. Like, I think it's much easier to rank bad moves because they would be bad on any character. But I found it much more tricky trying to kind of like appraise the best moves, because there are certain moves in this game that are like balanced against the rest of a character's tools. So for example, like Zangief's SPD isn't broken when it's like balanced against the rest of Zangief's kit, but if you gave Zangief's SPD to Rashid, you might have just ruined the game. So this one's a little bit more, I don't know, nebulous, but bear with me. And as always, if you guys think you found even better moves, let me know down in the comments. And with that being said, let's get into the countdown, starting with number 5. Speaking of Zangief, we are going to be starting with Zangief's level 3 super. Yeah, the loyal fans. So Zangief's level 3 super, I don't really have to explain much here, but it completely changes the risk-reward against Gief, both offensively and defensively. Because the traditional, like, risk-reward against Gief is, like, if I block and he SPDs, I'm gonna lose, like, 33%. If I jump and he doesn't SPD, I'm gonna lose about 29%. Like, this is generally the kind of risk-reward you're dealing with against Gief defensively. But once he has access to level 3, this completely changes, because now, if you decide to just block, you're now potentially eating... How much damage is this? 4,800. So now blocking could potentially lose you almost 50%. And then if you decide to try and jump and he reads it and does this, this does even more, I think. 5,500. So basically, if you're anywhere below 50% health, the moment that Gief stocks level 3, every single time he gets close to you, he's putting you in a 50-50 for the game. It's terrifying to try and block this character. So yeah, it makes his offensive pressure absolutely ridiculous, but I think what really pushes it into my list of top 5 is actually how good this thing is defensively. Because if you guys don't know, Gief has like some of the worst defensive options in the game, right? He has no invincible reversal, his level 1 doesn't work as a wake-up option, and his level 2 is very slow. So Gief's defensive options in this game are pretty terrible across the board. But the moment that he ticks over and hits that 3-bar threshold, he goes from having, like, the worst defense in the game to some of the best defense in the game. Because this super is completely unjumpable after the flash, which means that it's not just the case that Gief might wake up with level 3, it means that you can't even really, like, reliably shimmy him with this thing. So in a situation like this, a basic knockdown into, like, throw shimmy, if Gief just wakes up with level 3, this thing has actually got good range. You might have just lost the entire round. So every single time you attempt to pressure this character, if he wakes up with level 3 and you're doing anything but jumping or backdashing before the flash, you're just scooped. It's over. You might have just lost. So, yeah. This super is terrifying. It's very expensive, but it massively buffs his offensive pressure and his, like, defensive options as well. So, yeah, that's my number 5. Okay, let's move on to number 4. And number 4, I think, is maybe the one in the list which a lot of people will be confused by. I think the remaining 4 that I've got here are... Most people would agree they're really good moves, but I think this one might come as a surprise to some people. They might be wondering what I'm cooking, so bear with me. Number 4 is a move belonging to Ed, and it's actually one of his normals. I'll give it up to chat. What do you guys think? Which Ed normal do you think I'm going to put in here? I think I've seen about 1 person out of 50 get this right. But yeah, this is why I think this is a surprising one. I think the 4th best move in the game right now is this. Ed's crouching light kick. This move, it's not flashy. That's why I think a lot of people are not really paying attention to this thing. This normal is absolutely cracked. So Ed's crouching light kick on the surface doesn't look, you know, super obviously impressive. But I think as time has passed and the meta has developed a bit for this character, people are starting to realize how crazy this normal is. It's 5 frames startup, so it's slightly slower than his jabs. But in exchange, you get absolutely insane range for a 5-frame. Like, this goes really far. And that makes it one of the absolute best punish moves in the game for moves that are like -5, -6. And there are a lot of things in this game. Like, Street Fighter 6, if you guys don't know, this game is full of moves that are designed to be like -5, -6, but safe if you kind of space them. But Ed's crouch light kick has so many exceptions where he can just punish things that no other character in the game could punish. Yeah. So, Ken's Jinrai Low is one of those really autopilot strings like that is basically safe to everything except for invincible reversals. It's designed to push you back to like this distance where most lights won't reach. But like Ed just says, you know, fuck your safe ender, I'm punishing you into a knockdown. So another common move that's -5 but is designed to be hard to punish unless you space it right. Bison Scissors. So against 99% of the cast, Bison Scissors is not punishable at this distance. It does too much pushback and it's only -5. Once again, Ed can kind of break the mold and gets full punishes off this. Now I think there's a few normals in this game that have similar range to Ed's crouch light kick. Like we just looked at Ken's stand light kick. But I think the reason why Ed stands out so much to me is not just the fact that it has huge range, but it's also a really, really good combo starter. I guess that's too close to the corner for the full desync, but yeah, you can do some really good combos off this. And it's also relatively low risk because this buffer is safe on block. It's also a really good defensive poke. It's not just good for like punishing. You can just kind of sit back in the mid-range and buffer this thing. It has fairly low recovery. And if your opponent goes for like a YOLO drive rush or something, you can just buffer into like medium blitz. So just in general, really good poke, amazing punish tool, and it's often the start of a lot of momentum switches. If you watch high-level Ed gameplay, you will notice so many rounds. Now that I've said it, pay attention to where people's like control of the round shifts. And a lot of the time it starts from crouch light kick. Alright, let's move on to number 3. This one's probably less controversial. I think most people would agree this button is insane. Now, I asked you guys to try and guess which button I meant for Ed. Now, I don't think anyone's gonna have any trouble guessing what button I'm gonna go with now that I'm switching to Lily. It's not exactly controversial, this one. Lily's only button. Yeah. It's crouching heavy punch. You knew this was coming. Lily's crouch heavy punch is one of the best moves in the game. I think this normal alone is single-handedly keeping Lily viable. Like, I've never seen a character be carried so hard by a single button before. This thing does everything for the character. So this does everything. As I said, it has a gigantic hitbox. I'll just show you guys the hitbox so that you can see it. So as she swings the arc downwards, you'll notice that she has this absolutely gigantic disjoint hitbox above her head. Would you shut the fuck up, Bison? I'm trying to record. I hate how many characters yap in this game when they're AFK. It's really annoying. Keep it down, will you? Keep it in. All right, this is going in the final cut. Anyway, yeah, this look at the state of this hitbox. And then once it comes down to like ground height on the next frame, it's just massively disjoint. There's all hitbox, no hurtbox on the end of this thing. So just as purely in terms of hitboxes, it is incredible. As I said, it has this giant hitbox above her. So it's also an amazing anti-air as well as a poke. So this thing will also anti-air, and the anti-air hitbox even goes behind her head. So it's even anti-cross-up. Like, it's very rare for normals to hit this far behind your head in this game, but Lily's just does. And not only that, as well as this thing having an amazing hitbox for an anti-air, if it counter hits, which it will a lot of the time, you even get juggles afterwards on anti-air, which is ludicrous. So yeah, you can get big combos for anti-airing with her best anti-air normal. I think you get even more near the corner. Let me just... Which is insane. Casual 50% for trying to jump at Lily off her best anti-air normal. So it's an incredible poke. As I said, it's also special cancelable. So like all of her combos can be started from this. Once you've got wind charges, you just buffer into, you know, Condor Spire and get free plus frames. Oh yeah, the last thing about this normal before I forget, this normal does a shitload of block stun, and it's one of those rare normals where if you drive rush cancel it, you actually recover in time to block reversals. This is a really important thing at high level. If you watch Hibiki play, Hibiki the Beast, the best Lily player in the world, he does this all the time. So Street Fighter 6 kind of has like a defensive option select you can do, where if your opponent does a drive rush cancel off a normal, you can just go for EXDP. And the way it works is that if they just do like drive rush into a jab, it's a true block string, and your DP doesn't come out. But if they try and go for a frame trap, then you die. This is a very common like defensive option select in this game. However, Lily can completely ignore this option select because, like I said, her Crouch Fierce does 10 years of block stun. So she can do this. There aren't many characters in the game that can do this. I think there's only like a small handful of heavies which let you block in time after a drive rush. So you can't even use that option select against Lily. Yeah, so like I said, no character in the game is as reliant on a single button to do everything as Lily. So I had to just give her the number 3 spot. Alright, number 2 spot, we are gonna go to Ken. You might expect, if you've ever watched this stream before, that I'm gonna talk about Jinrai. You might have assumed Jinrai time was coming. It's not Jinrai. It's the thing that makes Jinrai a problem. It's the secret thing carrying Jinrai. Yeah, it's Ken's Stand Heavy Punch. This is number 2. This is the real reason why Jinrai is the most obnoxious move in the game. It's this thing. So Ken Stand Fierce is 10 frame startup, which is pretty good. Has a really nice extended hitbox in front of him. It's -2 on block, so it's completely safe. And it only has 17 recovery frames, which not a lot of people have mentioned, but I think it's worth pointing out. This thing on whiff has like the same amount of recovery frames as like a medium. Like his Stand Fierce has 17 frames of recovery. His crouch medium kick has 19 frames of recovery. Like this medium right here has more recovery than this heavy, which is kind of crazy. So it's very difficult to whiff punish. For some unknown reason, this button also has 5 active frames. So even though it's -2 on block, it's like the easiest thing in the world to make plus after a knockdown. It's, yeah, there you go, +1. It's just cruise control for like easy plus frames. You don't even really need reliable frame kills for this thing. You just press Stand Fierce as they're getting up, and you get a meaty. Special cancelable, so if you were thinking of trying to counter it with like DI, for example, then good luck to you. That was cool. I wasn't expecting the same frame trade, but cool. Yeah, so it's special cancelable, you can use it in combos. It's a great buffer into drive rush. This move does about half a bar of drive gauge damage on block, which is fairly normal for a heavy. But the reason I think that it deserves its own mention is because this string exists. Stand Fierce into medium Jinrai. So this is a true block string, by the way. There is no gap between Stand Fierce and medium Jinrai. So if you aren't already parrying before the Stand Fierce, there is no gap here. And that means that if you do this whole string into Jinrai low, this can absolutely shred your opponent's drive gauge for relatively little risk. Most characters can't punish this. At max range, no characters can punish this. The only option is that some characters can interrupt in the middle with an EXDP. But if you don't have an invincible reversal, or you don't want to spend 2 bars of drive, this buffer alone can probably carry you straight to master rank. Like, I'm not exaggerating. If you wanna go straight to master rank as quickly as possible, just do this. Because this string off Stand Fierce does over a bar of drive damage. But what really makes it obnoxious is that it's quite a slow string, and during the entire thing, Ken is also regenerating his own drive gauge, so it can cause massive swings in drive control very quickly. Like, watch what happens here. I'm gonna set myself to, let's say, 3 bars of drive, and my opponent is at 6 bars of drive. So in this situation, I'm at a 3 drive deficit. Watch what happens when I press Stand Fierce into medium Jinrai. I gained over a bar of drive for doing that low risk string, and my opponent lost over a bar. So effectively, like the total swing in drive, it went from me being at a 3 bar deficit to us being roughly the same, which is crazy in this game. Like being able to just immediately reverse the drive positions off a pretty safe buffer is very, very unusual. So yeah, I think this button is the one that is like the linchpin that is keeping Ken extremely strong in this game. Anyway, it's time for us to move on to what I believe to be the single best move in this game. I don't think this is remotely contentious. I think everyone should agree with me, and if you don't, then you are an individual with your own thoughts and feelings. I can see the exclamation mark Rashid spam in chat already. Yeah, what else would it be? What else would it be? Where did you think I was going with this? Rashid's fucking level 2. It's the best move in the game and it's not even close. You knew this was coming. This move does everything. So this super gives Rashid total dominant control over the screen for the next 5 to 10 seconds just by having 2 bars of super. Most characters have like 0 answer to it once it's out, and the few that do, like the small number of characters that do have like anti-projectile moves, they usually still have to take huge risks to try and get through this thing. Like, as far as I know, the only character in the entire game who has a somewhat reliable option to this is Bison's EX, what's it called? Psycho Crusher. So let's talk about like how to deal with this thing. Because once it's out, Rashid basically gets 2 to 3 throw attempts on you, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Because here's the thing, if you don't feel like blocking, and you decide to try and tech the throw, then let's just see what happens in that scenario. Yeah, thanks for playing. That'll teach you for attempting to tech the throw. That's not even max damage. Like, I don't know the super optimal stuff with the like the 1 frame link on Jump Fierce. That's just like something I shat out in 15 seconds, and that still did 60%. So that's the thing. Like, if you try to be as risk averse as possible and accept that you're gonna have to take the throw, you're probably still gonna lose over 30% of your health. Like, that's the minimum best case scenario. That's why this super is so crazy, because like once your health gets below a certain point, it's kind of just round over. There is so little counterplay to this damn thing. And even if you manage to make all the correct defensive decisions, your drive gauge is gonna get absolutely obliterated by this thing. Your reward for perfect defense here is losing half of your drive gauge, maybe more. Like, best case scenario, you lose 3 bars of drive. That it being like perfect on defense. You can't even drive, like none of you, I can't stress enough that none of your defensive options even work here. Like, you can't even drive reversal this thing. There you go. You wanted to try and use the defensive mechanics that the game gives you, you also lose 55% of your health. You can't even DP through this damn thing. Like, I can't, like, even if you're one of the characters that has an invincible reversal, even if you're one of those characters, it still will not work. So yeah, none of your defensive options are going to help you deal with this situation, and a lot of the time they're going to get you killed even faster. So like I said, that's just going over the offensive utility of this super. It just gives Rashid total control over everything while it's active. But defensively, this thing is also amazing as well. Because here's another common scenario, right? This is a thing that Rashid players will do all the time. Something like this, right? A Rashid player massively overextends. They spend a ton of drive, and then they get a throw on you. And they're like below 1 bar of drive. And you think to yourself, okay, well, I took a throw, but maybe this isn't too bad because the Rashid player just spent a ton of drive. So maybe I'm in a decent position. And then this happens. Oh. See what I mean? You thought you were in a decent spot. All he has to do is activate level 2, and now he can just safely let all of his drive come back, while also obliterating your drive. It's crazy. Even in Burnout, you see this all the time as well. Like, sometimes Rashid players will burn themselves out, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm in a decent spot now, they've burned themselves out, and then they just activate level 2, and now there's nothing you can do, and their burnout timer is recovering, and they do something like this. And they manage to regenerate like 60% of the burnout timer while doing, like, taking no risk whatsoever. Actually, speaking of drive gauge damage, one thing I have noticed recently is a lot of Rashid players have started doing this. They're not even activating from full screen anymore. Sometimes they'll just do crouch fierce activate up close. And even just doing this, look how much drive gauge damage something like this does to the opponent. If you're not already parrying before the activation, full corner carry on block too. So yeah, I don't know what else to say at this point. This super does everything. It's a godlike combo tool, a godlike pressure tool, a godlike defensive tool. Capcom save our souls. Anyway, those are my 5 best moves in the game. If you guys disagree, as I said, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video.